YouTube, what the crap is going on? Heir of Repons here, coming to you from Red Eye Mountain with a 3v3. This is a battle we played on stream at the time I'm recording this. I played it last night with the folks from my community. Appreciate all those who joined. If you want to be a part of those streams, just keep an eye out on my channel. I schedule them occasionally. It's always at about 8 o'clock U.S. Central in the evening. But if you keep an eye on the channel, you'll be able to see when they go up, or you can join the Discord. I post the links there, and then also I put it on my Twitter most of the time. So you can check it out there if you do want to be a part of it. We have a good time. So the folks who have joined me are all, again, from the community here, and we just decided to play some somewhat lore-friendly 3v3s, meaning the factions we pick have to have some reason from lore to have occasionally at least been allied. And, you know, I think in Warhammer that pretty much everybody hates each other all the time, for the most part. But, you know, occasionally they get together, and so that's what we've done here. So in this combination, we have Grombrindle the White Dwarf teaming up with Repens de Leonis from Bretonia, and then, of course, we have Volkmar the Grim from the Empire, so it should be pretty fun. I'm playing as Bretonia, and my forces are made up of just peasants and a couple of spearmen at arms. And then, as far as the real meat of my army, I've got these Companions of Kinel, some Royal Pegasus Knights up in the air. We have Repens de Leonis here, and then I've got a Damsel of Life who's rocking Earthblood and Regrowth, and then I've got a Paladin on a Barded Warhorse, a couple of Grail Knights, and then a couple of Knights of the Realm over here. So I've brought a pretty heavy Knight component. Grombrindle has brought Gotrek with them, so this means the Dwarves are going to have some very tanky, powerful Lords in melee. Dwarves, of course, still sometimes struggle with not getting their butt knocked out every time they take a hit, but when they do stand and fight, those two are going to be extremely strong. There's a couple miners with blasting charges supporting this army, and then up front, it's Longbeards to give a nice, unbreakable, well-armored center. They're supported by a Runesmith, and that particular Runesmith does have all of his runes here: Wrath and Ruin, the Rune of Negation, and Oath and Steel. And then back here in the back, there's a couple of Thunderers, which could be very helpful for taking down large units or otherwise very valuable units. And then there is a Goblobber to give some range and some Slayers to help protect in the back. And as for Volkmar's army, he does have an appropriate Volkmar army. There are a number of Outriders and Pistoliers. You can see here that we've got 2 Outriders over on this flank. And then as for the rest of the Empire forces, it's going to be about 5 or 6 Empire Spearmen with shields. They're going to be supported by a Warrior Priest. This is a great way to support cheap troops. The Warrior Priest is pretty cost efficient and has been pretty decent. Has multiple uses in the most recent patch, so I find him to be a pretty solid unit to call upon in the right time. There is a Bright Wizard up in the air supporting with Burning Head, Flaming Sword of Wrath and... is it Flaming Sword of Ruin? Not Wrath and Ruin. And then we have a Fireball. You can see Volkmar here rocking his abilities. He does have his grand abilities, his Grand Soulfire, and then Battle Prayers, Grand Soulfire, Grand Shield of Faith, my bad, and then he's got his Grand Hammer of Sigmar. He does have the Jade Griffin, so he will be healing. There are a couple of Empire Knights supporting the Hammer of Witches over here, and then some Pistoliers already harassing some Skinwolves. And so we are up against Norska and Chaos, and Wintertooth, you can see, has some Skinwolves here. There are some Chaos Knights with Lances, and then we're going to have the main infantry line for Chaos, which is some Warriors with Halberds, and some Standard Warriors. They are supported by the Lackey of Tzeentch here, the Everwatcher, Cethario. I think it's Tzeentch. Did I get it right? I don't know. I get it wrong sometimes. And then we've got a bunch of Famir Warriors supporting Throg. Famir Warriors are brutal. Really solid damage, and then they do magic and armor sundering, and so these are some tough units. And they're going to be supporting Throg, who is also quite a tank. There is a Chaos Giant and a Hell Cannon and the Summoners of Rage. Frostwyrm. And then as we move over to Wulfric's Norska faction, he has a couple of Marauder Horsemen with axes. He has a line of Marauders up front. Famir Balefiend here. And Balefiend has, I know for sure, Pit of Shades, Pendulum, and then I think it's Enfeebling Foe on the other. And then Wulfric here is going to have Seafang, and I think he has Seafang. Yep, he's got Seafang and Fight or Die, Hunter of Champions, and he's on top of his Mammoth. And then as for support, I mentioned the 2 Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes. There's also some Warhounds, Ice Wolves, the Maws of Savagery, and there is a Werekin over here. The Dwarves also do have a single Gyrocopter with Brimstone Gun. I'm going to hit play, let you all see what happens. There's not a big infantry line from either side, to be fair. Ours is spread very wide, and looks big, but it's mostly cheap units. But then again, like I said, our opponents have brought a lot of monster-type units. I am going to try and get some quick charges on his Marauders, but this ends up kind of being a mistake. Like, although I do good damage, there was units to tie me down and get me stuck in this combat, and I wasn't quick enough to get in or out. So, good idea, poorly executed, which is to damage up his infantry before the fight. Some of my Grail Knights end up having to take an engagement here. You got the Werekin and these other units, which are going to be dishing a lot of damage here. So yeah, the Maws of Savagery. So yeah, my Grail Knight's a tough unit, but they're overmatched. Over here, I was able to get a quick win with against the Beast of Tashnar, but Tashnar. But I do get a Pit of Shade, so again, a very nice play here by the Norscan player of Wintertooth, and then he actually outflanked me with a Vanguard deployed Miststalker, which is a Famir warrior with Vanguard deployed. So my Knights get absolutely crumped here by an excellent play from Wintertooth. The Dwarves have been able to easily hold out against the Marauders. They have no problems. In the middle, my Peasants are basically just wasting the time of Chaos and Norska, or Wintertooth in this case, and I'm totally fine with that. Look at this Banishment here. Just brutal cleanup work by Volkmar, so an excellent play by my Empire teammate here. Volkmar is racking up the damage and the kills and getting a lot of work done here. Chaos is taking big casualties very quickly. The support of the Warrior Priest and Volkmar is going to be pretty clutch. My Pegasus Knights did KO the Frostworm and keep it from being effective in this fight, though they took more damage in the process than I thought they would from winning that fight. Basically, my Peasants slowed stuff down enough to allow the Archers back here for the Empire and the Hammer of Witches to kind of do its thing. And I love the deployment of the Hammer of Witches. It's way over on the flank with the spear support, which means it takes longer for the enemy to get to it, and it's able to do more damage. And you can see that it is being helpful. In the middle, the Summoners of Rage and the Famir Warriors are able to break through our cheap Spearmen. I've used my Companions of Kinel and the Pegasus Knights thinking that the 1-2 punch might help me KO Throg along with all these spears, but I was absolutely wrong. Balefiend and Throg just absolutely smashed their way through us. And because of my failure on the flank, Norska is now kind of running amok. But fortunately, my Dwarven ally comes to the aid of me. He was able to use a Rune of Wrath and Ruin to slow down Wulfric. I caught up with him, but now all the wolves are regathering. However, at this point, the Gyrocopter with Brimstone Gun and the Thunderers are in position. And you can see now the Thunderers providing fire support. And Wulfric, who was basically threatening to trounce all that was left of our armies, is now taking some pretty severe damage. You can see that the wolves are trying to get to the guns, but they're being blocked by Longbeards, and so the Famir Warriors are going to come in instead in a desperate bid to stop these guns from killing off their lord, and Famir Warriors will absolutely chew through Thunderers, as will the Maws of Savagery. But you can also see there's support back here by the Outriders too, which is very nice. That's more AP damage, and we're able to put Wulfric and his Balefiend to rout finally. Gotrek also helped here, so my leadership was able to somehow survive. I managed to pull Rapunz over here. I'm trying to help get these Norscan units out of the guns because I wanted to save them. But at this point, saving the Dawi guns is going to be difficult, which really leaves a little bit of cleanup work over here. Our Empire teammate did a fantastic job. I guess my Peasants just standing around. You can see here I'm going to body block these Summoners of Rage as well. Just try and keep them from getting to the Archers. Again, you're just trying to give your ranged units a chance to do their work. The Peasants were never intended to actually win anything. They're just there to body block stuff. And 'tis the life of a peasant on the battlefield, right? It's not a pretty life. It's not a particularly long-lasting life, but it is what it is. See, these bombardments from Volkmar are pretty painful here, helping to get rid of the Famir Warriors, which are otherwise some very tough units. The Everwatcher is still alive and kind of cruising around back here, but almost all the support for Norska and Chaos is now gone. They had very good initial success on our right flank, their left flank. Crushed my cavalry and started pushing in, but the Dawi Thunderers really saved the day there. So my teammate and Grombrindle really pulling in a clutch save and not allowing that flank to fall apart too early. So very well done on his part. I guess if nothing else, my sacrifice at least gave him the time to get his units in position. But otherwise, my entire Bretonnian army was mostly a sacrificial offering in this one, mostly sacrificial. And that just leaves the Ever Chicken here. He does know he is finger-licked at this point, And so he's running around trying to spread his chaos herbs and spices and attempt to keep himself from being placed in a bucket and being a delicious, extra crispy value meal for those who defeated him in this battle. He is one delicious chicken, and my troops are very much looking forward to something fried and crispy. The good thing is that not many of my troops survived, and so those that did are going to get extra chicken. What do you guys think? Does he make, like, how many 24-piece buckets does Sartorial make up by the time he is breaded and fried? And then what are the most savory pieces of him, you know? Anyway, he is going to take an absolute savaging here. Everything is focused on him. He's actually not great in melee unless it's unarmored units. And so there's a lot of stuff here that's going to be putting a pretty savage beating down on Sartorial. There he goes. He is out. And that is going to be the end of this team battle. It was a fun 3v3. Again, kind of the theme here ended up being mostly like just people banding together against a chaos or a Norscan invasion here. So it was a fun battle. Appreciate Aspiring Amoeba and Knights Templar for playing with me on my team. And then, of course, Fidelis Wolf, Shadow of Nagarath, and Mitchell Mara coming up with the opposing team here. It was fun armies by everybody. Let's just run through the performance for each player here. For myself, does not look great. Now, the good news is I did not put any chevrons on any of my units. And so a couple of my units at least earned some chevrons and proved that they did something during the fight, because all the rest that I did was probably mostly body blocking and sacrificing my army to keep my teammates alive. And probably not so much intentionally. It was probably just because I'm extremely rusty with multiplayer and I've got a lot of work to do continuing. And then Throg here absolutely owned in the fight he was in for the longest time. I think, in fact, I don't know exactly what shut him down eventually, but it was probably Volkmar, because I didn't catch that particular one on camera. I'm surprised that the Frostworm came back from routing and actually managed to get a couple kills, and look, it picked up a chevron in fighting my Pegasus Knights as well over time, so interesting that both those units did that. This Mistwalker, I think that was the Vanguard deployed Mistwalker, if I remember right, by the banner, and that was a great play. Ended up trapping what little cavalry I had left and making a big mess for me. Cool army from Fidelis Wolf, appreciate him playing. Taking a look at Amoeba and Shadow of Nagarath, Volkmar got 63 kills, was healed up the whole time. He was definitely extremely important for us here. The Hammer of Witches ended up getting a ton of damage done. It doesn't get a ton of kills per se, but it was shooting at very valuable targets. So this ended up being a clutch unit for us as well, in terms of doing some key damage. And then his cavalry stayed alive and did damage the whole battle too. His Outriders, you can see, picking up a chevron even with low kills, meaning they got a lot of good damage in on units where we needed it. I was terrified of Shadow of Nagarath's Wulfric here. Whenever I saw my cavalry falling apart, I just already had the vision in my head of Wulfric just running roughshod all over the rest of our armies and us losing the battle. And so he did a good job crushing my cavalry early here with a nice combination of magic from Balefiend and Werekin, supporting the Maws of Savagery, who indeed savaged us. I don't know what happened to these guys, like where they went off the battlefield. You can see they still have most of their hit points left, so some excellent work in that department from Shadow of Nagarath. We move on to Knights Templar and Mitchell Mara. For Knights Templar, these guns ended up being extremely clutch. Took out Wulfric and did some good damage to the Famir warriors as well. The Gyrocopter constantly out harassing, and then Gotrek was also important here in the sense that he helped me put down the Mammoth once we finally got him fixed, and we were able to get some damage done. And then, of course, Grombrindle was helping his infantry cut through whatever he needed to, which wasn't much of a challenge for the Longbeards because they were mostly up against Chaos Marauders, and those Marauders are just absolutely no match for Longbeards in that case. So well done by Knights Templar. And as for Mitchell Mara, obviously coming up with the last unit alive with Sartorial. I love this pick. He's an interesting lord. I love the lore of metal there, and then some of the other fun things he brought. The Summoners of Rage here got some kills. I think it was mostly against peasants and men-at-arms, but still, when you come in and get 154 kills, it's generally speaking pretty satisfying. His Hell Cannon got a little bit of work done. But the rest of his units, his infantry just got Volkmar'd pretty hard, and at that point that meant his Chaos Giant was relatively unsupported. And so Mitchell Mara, cool army pick here, but he ended up in a fight that was not good for him because he only had a few units here, and the Empire was able to use its combined arms to cause a lot of damage to his units. So I think he did good given the circumstances, but ended up with his forces in a tough position there, no doubt. Anyway, again, appreciate all the players who participated. If you all enjoyed the video, do me a favor, get up there, leave a like, and if you're not subscribed, which I think almost half the people watching this aren't subscribed, go ahead and go push the subscribe button. If you'd like to be notified, you can push the bell. But pushing the subscribe button will mean that my videos get into your feed, make it easier to find, and I hope to see you because I'm going to have more. We have a lot of fun stuff going on. I've got more of these battles coming. We've got the All-Gun Empire campaign. We're playing Troy. We're playing Crusader Kings 3. We're playing all kinds of fun stuff, and I hope to see you there. Heir of Carthage signing out for now. See you soon.